You know, these are the type of videos I dread making. I do not wish this was real. I wish this was a fantasy. I hope I was wrong here, but it is not wrong. It's fact. Something bad has happened to our country in a small blue-collar town in northeastern Ohio called East Palestine. Don't worry, it's not related to, you know what. I'm not going to get into it. Point is, a critical, destructive, disastrous accident occurred in our small blue-collar town in Ohio. There was a train derailment a couple of weeks ago that not enough people are talking about. Not enough people are discussing what is happening in East Palestine, Ohio. There was a major disaster that happened that may affect not just this small town, but tens of millions of people across the board. Tens of millions. Not a couple thousand like the media, when they try to report it, were originally claiming. Tens of millions. Now, before we continue, I know I hope you guys enjoy. This is a hard video for me to make because this is happening in the year 2023 in our country. I hope you enjoy these type of videos. I hope you enjoy the fact that I'm being blunt with everybody. This is happening. This is real. And I dare call it our Chernobyl. This is the closest thing to our version of Chernobyl. And a lot of the environmentalists, they're not talking about this. For whatever reason, they're not discussing this. The media, they've mentioned it, but they haven't talked about what's really going on here. Not, conspiracy crap. No. What are the side effects of this? Who's going to get impacted by this? Millions of people. So if you don't know, a couple weeks ago, a train that had hazardous chemicals was traveling through East Palestine, and it got derailed and exploded. It exploded. Hazardous chemicals, including vinyl chloride. And the details for how it got derailed, it's not important. Point is, you had a train carrying some of the most dangerous chemicals you can possibly have. Not, the most dangerous, but they're pretty freaking dangerous. You get the point. And it exploded. And if you got to see some of these pictures to believe it. This is what it looked like in East Palestine. Look at this. That's a mushroom cloud. And you had pictures from hundreds of miles up in the air from people that were on planes flying past it. You just see a black blob over East Palestine. This isn't normal. This isn't good. What else is happening here? Because you cannot just tell me it was a small accident. Alright? No. What else really happened here? As in, who else gets affected by this? Because a small town of East Palestine, they evacuated. From my understanding, nobody has died. Thank goodness. But the effects of this disaster is not just going to hit this small blue-collar town of northeastern Ohio. It's not going to even hit just that region. It may affect tens of millions of people. You heard that right. Tens of millions of people may be affected by what should have never happened. They did a lot of research after the fact, and they realized many of the procedures that were put in place to prevent things from happening like this happened. They were not followed, and look what happened. The company got cheap, and we have a disaster. And a couple of days later, residents in nearby Mahoney and Trumbull counties reported a chemical smell in the areas. This was the first sign that there's a bit more going on here. This isn't just East Palestine getting affected by this. But you may say, okay, well, that's nearby. It's in those counties, it's just that. But it gets worse. Far, far worse. Look at this. Materials released during the incident were observed in storm drains and detected in samples from Sulphur Run, Leslie Run, Bull Creek, North Fork, Little Beaver Creek in the Ohio River. Oily product was observed seeping in the soil, and emergency response staff observed impacts to aquatic life. Guys, this is massive. This is terrible. You know why? Because these water supplies affect 30 million people. 30 million people are gonna be affected by this. That's 10% of American citizens being impacted by a disaster, an environmental disaster. This isn't, global warming. Global warming has done nothing to this scale. Tens of millions of people, just like that, have their water supplies affected. The nature around the area is getting decimated. And that's not all. You're having people report animals tens of miles away, even 100 miles away, are falling sick and dying near this hellish Ohio train derailment site. This isn't safe for people to be anywhere close to this. But I was reading this, and one part struck me immediately. Look at this. Just the Wisconsin Department of Health Services also had a more recent information sheet on vinyl chloride, which said human and animal studies show higher rates of liver, lung, and several other types of cancer. Yeah, this chloride that got released into the air, or the water, whatever, has shown it can cause cancer. Higher rates of it. You see why I'm pissed off right now? You may have just potentially exposed tens of millions of people to an increased likelihood of getting cancer in this region. That's not all. Think about this. Remember that huge mushroom cloud we saw earlier? It's in the air. You're telling me that it's not going to affect people in possibly New Jersey, New York, if the air takes it that way? We could potentially have much more people impacted by this than we originally thought. Do you see why I call this our Chernobyl? Chernobyl was a disaster. This is our disaster, the worst possible disaster you can have without a nuclear explosion. Tens of millions of people potentially impacted by this. How many lives are going to be lost because of this? Because you had incompetence with the business, with the trail company, whatever, the railroad company that just allowed it to happen. They didn't take real precautions. What with the government that are trying to cover this up? What is really going on here? This isn't some conspiracy theory. Why is the government covering this up? Do they just don't want people to know the real consequence of this? The fact that tens of millions of people are potentially at risk? I want answers. I think everybody should want answers as well, because this is a disaster. This is one of the worst environmental disasters America's ever had. It's a fact. I know the environmental people are going to say, oh, global warming. Global warming has caused 1/100th of the pain and suffering this may have caused to too many people. And I hope the company that caused this, they're sued into oblivion. And I hope to God, I'm praying to God that nobody dies from this. I'm praying that nobody gets killed because of an increased likelihood of cancer or anything like that. Prayers up to those in East Palestine, and prayers up to anybody that is in the region. Stay safe, and just, I don't know, I just say maybe drink bottled water if you live in this region. I don't know. I honestly don't know what to do if you're from this region. I can't even imagine living there at this point. Just thinking that there was a huge explosion that may cause you to have an increased likelihood of cancer. Prayers up for everybody, every citizen in America that may get impacted by this. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys got informed by this video. People need to discuss this more. It is our Chernobyl if this ends up impacting tens of millions of people. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys in the next video. Godspeed to all of you.